Today's topic is an introduction into the great compassion. A small overview. And as always, at the beginning, it is important to make a definition of the topic, the words. What do we mean by them? So great compassion, great means concerning all living beings. And living beings, or all sentient beings, are all beings with a conscious and all beings with feelings. And all means in all directions of the universe. And compassion means may all these beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And may this compassion alleviate the suffering. So this is closely related to kindness, bodhicitta, and it is also this great compassion able to reduce our self-cherishing and our egoism, our self-pity and so on, our disturbing emotions, and to generate a sincere wish to benefit all sentient beings of the six realms, without any exception. So the great Acharya Chandrakirti, in his text Madhyamaka-vatara, he wrote, the Buddhas are born from the Bodhisattvas, and the Bodhisattvas are born from great compassion and of non-dual transcendental wisdom. So wisdom and great compassion depend on each other, enforce each other. Because wisdom without compassion is cold and clean and rational, and compassion, on the other hand, without wisdom is without direction. And also Chandrakirti says in the same text, Madhyamaka-vatara, that great compassion is necessary in the beginning of our path, in the middle of our path, and at the end, the result of our path. And he compares it with when we plant a seed, then the seed needs the water, the fertile ground. And in the middle, when the seed starts to grow, then it needs a fertilizer. Its plant needs a fertilizer and the right amount of water. And at the end, when the crop is ripening, it also needs the compassion, the water, the taking care of it. Not the compassion, of course. So in this way, developing great compassion is necessary for our path. In the middle, in the beginning as a motivation, in the middle as a method, and at the end at the stage of the Buddha. We need this because this path leads us across the ocean of samsara into the Buddhahood, the Nirvana. And there we need both method and wisdom. Therefore the ultimate result also depends on method or compassion and wisdom. We can say that without great compassion there would be no Buddha, there would be no Sakyamuni Buddha, the Buddha of this era. So we can see that compassion is a method. And great compassion is the source of many qualities. It is the source of the qualities of the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas. And at the moment we do not only lack great compassion because of our limited scope of our compassion, but we also lack the genuine compassion. Our current level of compassion can vary and depending on how we relate to the situation, how we relate to persons, how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to the surroundings, the situation we are in. So that means that the nature of our compassion is not unconditional. And at the moment when our compassion is limited, it does not extend to all sentient beings. So it cannot be great compassion, but it is limited compassion or small compassion. This is why we have to develop, if we wish, and to transform our compassion into great compassion. And in combination with the wisdom, the transcendental wisdom. So the compassion can be divided into three types. First is already mentioned, the limited compassion, which is in reference to sentient beings. And in that limited compassion, we experience and we will see that the causes of suffering are our negative actions of body, our speech and our mind, which are the non-virtuous deeds. So in this condition it is very difficult to enhance our great compassion. And this first level of relating to sentient beings with limitations is how can we cultivate this meditation, this compassion. First we have to check out our state of mind. We have to examine what kind of compassion we have at the moment. And when we examine our mind, we will see and know that our compassion is not extended towards all sentient beings. And we cannot just recite the words, may all beings be free from suffering, may all be free from the causes of suffering. If this is just a recitation without any feeling, without any motivation, then it is just a verbal recitation. And in this way we can never engage in the real practice of compassion. So the actual practice of compassion should be a mental action, not a verbal action. The words we recite should reflect our motivations, our thoughts, our intentions, our attitude, and our heartfelt wish. If the words and the mind are not connected, we can recite whatever we want, but we will not engage in the real practice of compassion. And in this way we can improve our mind, this combination, and develop our compassion. And we can transform it from the limited compassion into the infinite, the boundless compassion. And for this we need to study, to contemplate and to meditate. Just an intellectual understanding of compassion will not be enough. We need study, contemplation and meditation. As we know, meditation increases our experience, our feelings, our emotional attitude. While on the other hand, study and contemplate is concerned with the wisdom. So many of us have an idea of great compassion, but do not really know the meaning of compassion. And for this we have to practice and to study and so on, and to meditate towards all sentient beings. We have to remind ourselves of the importance of great compassion, the meaning of great compassion, and how to practice the great compassion. With this most beautiful mindfulness that there is, again and again, we can naturally, slowly extend our compassion towards all sentient beings at all times without any difficulties. This natural, spontaneous, great compassion will grow and grow and grow. And then we will be able to control our negative mind, our anger and our thoughts of jealousy and so on. Because all these thoughts and negative feelings arise based on our lack of great compassion. So if we have great compassion in our mind, if it develops and grows and enhances, as just explained, then there's no chance for these negative thoughts and feelings to arise. The Buddha is only available inside, is only within reach inside through great compassion. So we have to gain experience, the inner realizations, and then our practice will be genuine and will be very beneficial. So the second level, that was the first level of compassion. The second level of compassion is in reference to dharmas. Dharmas here mean the ego. So the ego and the forms outside. The phenomena. I was looking for that word, sorry. So here the dharmas mean the phenomena. The ego as a phenomena and the outside world as phenomena. And this second level of compassion is aimed at the ignorance about the ego and the ignorance about the phenomena outside. And through this ignorance about what the ego really is or not is, through the ignorance of how we see the world outside, how it is in an absolute and in a relative view, and this causes the great suffering, the intense suffering, the ignorance from the ego and the absolute about the ego and about the absolute and relative reality causes great suffering. So here it is compassion in reference to dharmas. We cannot establish an inherent identity in the ego, independent, pure, existing only from itself, unchanging. And this is also with the phenomena outside. We cannot establish that they are in absolute existence, that they are independent, that they are never changing, that they are created from themselves inside and through themselves in an absolute way. This is impossible. So that's why this ignorance is the cause for the 12 links of dependent arising. And it is a part of the Pratitya Samuppada. So if one wishes all sentient beings to be free from the root of suffering, then we need to develop the wisdom, the transcendental wisdom. And the third level of compassion is a compassion free of objects of reference. And it means wishing all sentient beings to be able to realize the ultimate nature of the mind, which is the Buddhahood. So without reference means in the Buddha nature there is no attachment and no aversion. There's no ego. There's only the absolute reality. There's the purity. There is the non-connection with the outside world, there's the pure self, and so on and so on. There are many definitions. We call it in Buddhism the ultimate nature. This ultimate nature brings forward the compassion for all sentient beings, because there is no subject-object in the Buddha nature. So there is a freedom of reference, objects of reference, and that means, simply put, that there is compassion for all sentient beings. How do we practice great compassion, finally? As said, we have to study, to contemplate and meditate on these teachings. And if we can apply these thoughts to our mind, we can definitely be a better person and help others much more than we can now. Therefore, we should not be content just with the knowledge of great compassion, but we must put this knowledge into action. If we know how to make food, but we don't make it, then we have nothing to eat, and our knowledge is useless. And leaving it on a theoretical level won't have a great impact. It won't bring a great result. So concerning the wisdom, how to develop the transcendental wisdom, we can study and contemplate and meditate on dependent origination, Pratitya-samuppada. We have to study and contemplate, meditate about karma, and on the 5 aggregate skandhas of the person, on the alaya vijnana, the storage consciousness, from which all our ignorant actions arise. We have to study, contemplate and meditate on the difference between the absolute and the relative reality. That's for the transcendental wisdom part, how to develop, and how to develop the great compassion meditation. In my other videos I give some examples of them. The first is the metta, the kindness to all sentient beings. Second is the Tonglen. Tonglen, where we breathe in a part of the suffering of someone. It transforms in our heart into compassion, and we breathe out the happiness, the wishes that for this person, to make this person less suffering, or even happy, or alleviate his or her suffering. We have the meditation on equalizing oneself with the others. How would it be if I were in that situation of suffering from this other person? So we develop the empathy. And we can do this in circles, which is very well known, I suppose. Start with my beloved ones, my dear ones. Then the next circle is the acquaintances, the people I know but not so very well. Then the people with whom I am in conflict and trouble, disturbing emotion with, or they with me, the so-called enemies. And then we extend this compassionate meditation to all beings in all the realms of the universe. The north, the east, the south, the west, the intermediate directions. The upper realms in the sky, in the air. The lower realms, the earth and the sea, the oceans, where are billions and billions of sentient beings. And so we can widen, broaden, extend our heartfelt wish. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, or may at least their suffering be alleviated. And this is how we can connect with our inner Buddha nature.